Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for today's video. I have a very good friend of mine, Stacy, here. She is so gracious enough to allow me to do her makeup for my channel. Stacy and I have been friends for a few years. We actually work together at a couple of different companies, so she is near and dear to my heart. She's beautiful, clearly. She usually doesn't wear a lot of makeup. You don't wear much face makeup, do you?
No.
Okay, she does her eyes up, but I noticed that she kind of does the same thing on her eyes. She works with more like smoky silvers, grays, blacks. So I wanted to kind of brighten up her eyes, play with the blue in her eyes using complementary colors with a little bit more peach, kind of just brighten up the eyes a little bit more. She's wearing more face makeup than she normally does. I chose the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation for her skin. She's got beautiful skin. She is 47 though, so she's looking for something that gives good coverage but doesn't look too heavy or, accentuate any texture to the skin. So I think her makeup turned out beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes. Before we get started, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe. I produce several videos every week, mostly beauty related, but I also sprinkle in some fashion and fitness and wellness and all that good stuff. And also I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Lisa J Makeup. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and get started.
So first I had Stacy prep her skin with the Drunk Elephant La La Retro Whipped Cream. I want to make sure that her skin is really, really hydrated. I'm going to use the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation in the shade 4.5. This is my shade, and it actually ended up being a little bit too light for Stacy, but I really like this foundation a lot because it gives pretty medium coverage. I wouldn't call it full, but it gives medium coverage, which is all that Stacy needs. But it looks very beautiful on the skin. It doesn't look heavy. It doesn't have a really dry matte finish, but it's not overly dewy or glowy either. So you aren't having to worry about touching up throughout the day. It stays in place, and it just makes the skin look healthy, natural, and flawless. I like to use a beauty blender to apply it. I'm really taking my time. I spent quite a bit of time on her foundation. I work in little bitty layers, so it may seem like I'm putting a lot of makeup on her, but I'm really not. I'm using very sheer little layers. For her concealer, I'm using the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye Concealer, and I'm using the shade Medium Tan, which is perfect for her. This is a very thick, heavier concealer, so you just want to use a very small amount. I like to use my finger to kind of warm it up, and then I'm using my favorite new find, which is the Sigma Concealer Brush, to really go in there and press that product into her skin, giving her great coverage, but absorbing and removing any excess product so we don't have to worry about creasing or, it interfering with her liner or her mascara later in the day and having a big mess. I'm also taking whatever's left over on my brush and putting it around her nose because there was a little bit of redness around her nose area. To set her under eye, I'm using the Danessa Myricks translucent powder, and I'm applying a very sheer light layer underneath her eyes. I'm also going to set the center of her face with this powder. I like this powder a lot. It's very lightweight. It doesn't make the skin look dry and dehydrated and overly matte. It also has texture blurring effects, so it kind of blurs pores, makes the skin look a little bit smoother. For bronzer, I'm using the Hourglass bronzer. This is one of my favorites. I forget the exact shade. I think this is Luminous Bronze Light. I'll have everything listed below. And this brush by e.l.f., I love this brush. It's the Total Face brush, and it's so big and soft and fluffy, and just does a really great job of applying the product nice and light and sheerly. This bronzer is pretty pigmented, so I like to use a softer, fluffier brush so that I don't apply too much product. And I'm just warming her face up. I'm also kind of following her hairline around her forehead. Stacy spends a lot of time in the sun. You can see that her skin and her neck are quite a bit darker than we have on her foundation, so I want to even that out. For her eyeshadow, we're using the Revlon Eyeshadow Primer, which is a new favorite of mine. This is such a great eyeshadow primer, especially for drugstore. I'm also going to set it with the Danessa Myricks powder, just using whatever's left over on my brush, just to set that primer in place and help the shadows blend a little bit more smoothly. So I'm working with this color palette from Buxom. This is a customized palette that I made. I will list all the colors in the description box. I love these shadows. They are such great quality. I'm going to go in her crease with this color called Famous Flirt. No, I'm sorry. My bad. It's called Invite Only. Famous Flirt is one we're going to get to in a minute. But this one is just a beautiful, warm, kind of like a saddle color. It's very, very peachy brown. I'm just going to fluff this in her crease very sheerly. You can see I'm using a bigger, fluffier brush because I want the application of this to be soft and diffused and almost translucent. I really just want you to see a halo of color above her eyelid when she has her eyes open. So I'm taking my time. You'll notice that I'm really going to take my time blending these eyeshadows out. I want everything to look soft on Stacy's eyes. I don't want anything harsh. For underneath her brow, I'm taking this color, it's called Satin Seduction, and I'm using a fluffy brush to apply this because this color does have quite a punch to it, and I don't want her brow bone to be too intense, too shimmery or too white. I don't want it to be very stark. I want it to be soft and illuminated. So I'm using a soft, fluffy brush to just sheerly apply that under the brow. Okay, now we're taking the color Famous Flirt, which is such a beautiful color. It's like a satin finish, so it's not shimmery or frosty, but it's not matte either. It just is the perfect amount of sheen, and it's a really soft peach, and I'm just packing that on the eyelid. I absolutely love this shade, and I love this formula. So, so beautiful. A really perfect shadow to just brighten up the eyes. I think any eye color and any skin tone can use it. If you have darker skin tone, it's going to look less peachy and just kind of more bright on you. But it's just such a beautiful color. So I'm packing it all over the eyelid to really brighten Stacy's eyes. I want the center and the inner corner of her eyes to be really bright. Then I'm taking this shade, it's called Champagne Buzz by Buxom, and I'm just concentrating this right in the inner corner. This shade is very shimmery, so I don't want to pack this all over the lid. I just want a sheer little highlight right there in the inner corner of her eyelid. So you can see I'm not even taking it further than the midpoint. Then we're going to go back, and I've switched my brush. I'm using the 221, which is more of a concentrated, smaller crease brush. And I'm going in with the shade Spoiled Sexy, which is this matte, kind of muted plum color. It's not really dark purple, but there's definitely some plum tones to it. You can see it right there. It plays really nicely with the colors that I'm using in her crease and just deepens the look a little bit. It's also going to pull from the blue. Stacy has like bluish green eyes, and it's going to pull and complement that. So I'm keeping the shape of this application in a V. If you pay attention to my brush, you'll see I'm really creating a V shape. I'm not even going to the middle of her crease. I'm really keeping that on the outer corner, and then I'm just dragging it down to meet the eyelash line. This brush is fantastic for this part of the shadow because it's small enough to where I can concentrate that color, but it's soft enough to where it'll blend it out nicely and it won't leave any harsh lines. I can't say enough about this brush, the 221. If you don't have it by MAC, you will not regret purchasing this brush. It's one of my favorites. So I'm just going back and softening everything, making sure everything is really soft, really blended. For brows, I'm just combing her brows in place, and I'm using the Brow Definer by Anastasia Beverly Hills in medium brown. Stacy has a great brow shape already, so we're just going to deepen them up a little bit, make them a little thicker in areas that they are a little thinner, and just give her a nice frame to her eye. For her liner, I'm using this liner by Estee Lauder. It's the dual end, and the end I'm using is like this. It's called Bold Bordeaux, so it's this deep plum. It's a kohl pencil. It's very soft. I am really just concentrating this liner on the outer half of her lash line. I'm not bringing it any further than the midway point, and I'm making it much thicker on the outer corner. I'm not too concerned with it being perfect because, as you can see, I'm going back in with this really dark chocolate brown and a smudger brush, and I'm just going over that. I'm doing two things here. I'm softening that liner and making it a little bit more smoky, and I'm also setting it. Because it is a really soft kohl pencil, setting it with a powder is going to help it stay in place better. I actually kind of decided when I was doing this that I was going to use what was on my brush and even deepen her outer V a little bit more. So you'll see that I'm softening that liner, but then you can see I'm starting to take it up right here in the outer corner, just to make that V a little bit more intense. This brush by MAC, the 219, is a fantastic brush for doing very detailed outer corner work. It's a great brush to apply dark shadow, but then you want to go back like I'm doing now and use a softer brush to blend it out. For lashes, we're going to prime her lashes with the Dior Maximizer Lash Primer. This product is a must-have, you guys. I don't use it on myself because I have lash extensions, but anytime I do not have lash extensions, this is my combo right here. The Dior Lash Primer and the Chanel Le Volume Mascara. Those two together will completely change your eyelashes. They are such great products. For blush, I'm using this beautiful blush by Hourglass. It's Incandescent Electra, and it's a pink, and it's got like this marble, like this shimmer highlight marbled into the product. So you can see it just gives the most beautiful subtle glow on Stacy's cheeks. The color is very light, so I'm not doing a lot of blush color. I'm keeping the blush pretty soft, but it's this beautiful pinky peach with just the perfect amount of highlight. For her lower lash line, I'm taking this Pure Cosmetics pencil, and it's like a brown, and I'm just doing a really small line on her lower lash line. I'm stopping about midway because I am going to go over it with, again, that 219 brush and some shadow just to soften it, to set it so that it stays in place, and to give it just a softer, more diffused, smoky look. She's so pretty. Then we're going back and just putting a little mascara on her lower lashes. I'm using the Chanel Volume again. For lips, I'm using this lip pencil by MAC. This color is called Soar. I'm not sure if they still carry it, but if not, I will link a similar color. Whirl by MAC is also very similar, and it's just a really nice kind of mid-tone pink. And I'm just filling in her lips. Stacy has a great lip shape, so I'm not altering it or tweaking it any. I'm just lining it and filling it in. And then for lipstick, we're using Kind of Sexy by MAC. I love this. This has made it into some favorites videos of mine. It's such a classic nude matte lipstick. It's creamy though, so it's not dehydrating to the lips. It's just a really pretty peach. So mixing those pinks and peach is going to give me the perfect look that I want for Stacy's lipstick. I decided to add a little bit of gloss in the center of her lip, and I used a Sephora gloss. It's like the Ultra Gloss formula. It's called Ultra Shine Lip Gel, and I'll have to link the color down below because the color it's actually called Pin Up Pink. That's the color I used. Just a really pretty sheer glossy look to Stacy's lips.
All right, and this is the finished look. I think Stacy looks lovely. What do you think?
Thank you. I love it.
You love it?
It's different than what I do, but I love it. I feel like...
How does it feel? Does the foundation feel heavy? Or?
It feels a little heavier than I'm used to, but it feels good, and I feel like my face looks brighter. And you know, usually I'm scared to use foundation because I'm afraid it's gonna show the lines and wrinkles, but it doesn't at all.
No, I don't think it does at all.
I love it.
Color, I think we could have gone a little bit darker with your color, but
yeah.
I think I, kind of compromised with the bronzer and even that out. But
yeah, no, I love it. It feels really good, and I love my eyes.
Yay!
Well, thank you. No, thank you. It was fun.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.